A field of study that focuses on the ocean is oceanography. Oceanography can be divided into several branches. However, we can divide this field into four major categories: biological oceanography, chemical oceanography, geological oceanography, and physical oceanography. While all of these disciplines study the ocean, what defines their perspective is the term that is added to oceanography. Biological oceanography studies the ecology and biology of marine organisms such as phytoplankton and fishes. Chemistry oceanography deals with the ocean's chemistry, such as the amount of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the water or ocean acidification. The study of geological oceanography includes the study of plate tectonics and paleoceanography of the ocean floor. In physical oceanography, you are studying the physical characteristics of the ocean, including temperature and salinity structure, mixing, surface waves, internal waves, surface tides, and ocean currents. The question is whether oceanography is limited to studying only the ocean. What do you think? Oceanography is a general term for someone who studies the ocean, sea, and even lakes. Someone who studies sea currents and the circulation of large lakes like the Caspian Sea is also considered as a physical oceanographer. Due to the similarity of their phenomena, the only significant difference lies in the scale of the phenomena, which is usually large in oceans. For this reason, while this channel is about oceanography, in the first and second seasons, we studied the Caspian Sea and the Adriatic Sea. What is the history of oceanography, and how has it developed? What do you think? A brief history of oceanography can be divided into three parts: early and traditional oceanography, 850 BC to 1870, semi-modern oceanography, 1870 to 1970, and modern oceanography, since 1970. Let us begin with early and traditional oceanography. Although oceanography is a relatively new scientific field, its origins date back several thousand years. As people ventured from their coastlines in rafts, they began studying the ocean and the sea. The Polynesians are considered the first seafarers, having migrated from the western shores of the Pacific Ocean about 3,000 years ago to colonize islands such as New Guinea, Fiji, Samoa, and Hawaii. Their rafts were swept in different directions at different times. Their efforts have been directed at understanding why this occurs. These questions sparked the discovery of the ocean phenomena. As time progressed, our ancestors asked more questions about the ocean and sea. For example, even though ocean water looked like river water, it was salty and unfit for consumption. A few hundred years later, the questions have changed, focusing more on human curiosity. Philosophers of the time raised many of these questions. In 850 BC, philosophers wondered why we cannot see the end of the sea from the beach, or are the sea and the ocean endless? During that time, humans believed that the earth was flat and without curves. Later, with the advent of Greek scientists, the first advances in oceanography were made. Aristotle and Strabo recorded observations of tides between 384 and 322 BC. The reason this is important is that mankind understood that oceanic phenomena have a regular basis, and the basis of this science is based on observations. Up until 50 AD, Greek and Roman scientists played a significant role in discovering important discoveries such as the calculation of the phase of the moon in the tides. After that, most of the attention was focused on the development of ocean and sea navigation. Pedro Nunes, from 1502 to 1578, determined the loxodromic curve, representing the shortest path between 2 points on a two-dimensional surface. A group of scientists was aboard the ship during the Danish expedition to Arabia 1761 to 1767, considered the world's first oceanographic expedition. Although it was Juan Ponce de Leon who first identified the Gulf Stream in 1513, Benjamin Franklin conducted the first scientific study of it. Franklin accurately explained the Gulf Stream's cause by measuring water temperatures during several Atlantic crossings. In 1769 and 1770, Franklin and Timothy Folger published the first map of the Gulf Stream. Explorers of the late 18th century, such as James Cook and Louis Antoine de Bougainville, gathered information on the currents of the Pacific Ocean. The first scientific textbook in oceanography was written by James Rennell, in Currents in the Atlantic and Indian Oceans in detail. Matthew Fontaine Maury was the first superintendent of the United States Naval Observatory, 1842 to 1861, and devoted his time to studying marine meteorology, navigation, and charting prevailing winds and currents. Now, semi-modern oceanography. The semi-modern field of oceanography was not established until a little less than 150 years ago, in the late 19th century, after American, British, and European explorers set out to explore the ocean currents, ocean life, and the ocean floor. During the 1872 to 1876 Challenger expedition, the modern science of oceanography was founded. The expedition laid the foundation for developing an entire academic and research field devoted to oceanography. A book published in 1912, Science of the Sea, summarized the results of the Challenger expedition, which many consider the beginning of modern oceanography. Other Western nations also sent out scientific expeditions in the late 19th century. An oceanographic ship was built for the first time in 1882, the Albatross. In 1914, the first acoustic measurement of sea depth was made. Using an echo sounder, the Meteor expedition studied the mid-Atlantic ridge between 1925 and 1927 and gathered 70,000 ocean depth measurements. As a result of this technique, which utilizes sound propagation in oceans and seas, today's measuring devices are based on it. Now modern oceanography. The development of modern oceanography began only less than 60 to 70 years ago, when the United States Navy decided to understand the oceans better to gain a competitive advantage, particularly in submarine warfare. During the 1970s, large-scale computers were applied to oceanography to make numerical predictions of ocean conditions and as a component of overall predictions of environmental change. A few years later, an oceanographic buoy array was established in the Pacific Ocean to allow for the prediction of El Niño events. In later years, satellite data has also contributed significantly to the study of oceanography. Since 2000, several new tools have enabled oceanographers to gain a deeper understanding of the deep ocean in recent years. So, satellite data, observation, and computer modeling are the basis of oceanography today. From 1,000 years ago to the present day, the science of oceanography has made significant progress. There is no doubt that these developments will become even more significant over the next few years. Indeed, the various branches of oceanography today are derived from the simple questions our ancestors asked themselves.